Hello and welcome back to Marineford TCG. We're here with the AICHI CS and we're just about to enter the top 8. The commentators live in Japan are about to reveal the top 8 decks. All the leaders that have made it to top 8 and this is going to be quite exciting to see. So it looks like we have 3 Betty, 1 green-purple Luffy, 1 blue-purple Luffy, 1 blue-yellow Nami, 1 Pluffy, and 1 Enel. Enel making it to the top 8 was not something I had on my mind, but with all these aggro decks roaming around, hey, Enel's pretty good into aggro decks. Also, 3 Betty being the most represented deck in the top 8. Pretty cool. Betty taking advantage of not only blue-purple Luffy, but some of the other aggro decks that are quite flimsy. For example, green-purple Luffy can sometimes struggle with the Betty matchup because they have that Karasu to negate the green-purple Luffy's leader effect. And because the green-purple Luffy is playing with very low Don, they can find it hard to go for game, as they're forced to use their Giant very early on to counter out of Betty's massive 8k swings from as soon as turn 3. It'll be pretty interesting to see what this matchup is. Last matchup, we did see the Nami defeat a Zoro player in the top 16, which was pretty cool. Wonder if we'll see the Nami player again in this match. Enel will be pretty cool to watch as well. I'd love to see what the new Enel lists in OP11 are looking like. And that 1 blue-purple Luffy living on against the tide of aggro that's come down to take him out, come to take him down. But it does look like in this matchup we're going to see green-purple Luffy. So there was only one of these green-purple Luffys in the top 8 remaining. This deck came out at EBO2, absolutely dominated the EBO2 format in Japan. We've just kind of got this in the West. Our EBO2 format is so short. We haven't really got a feel of how dominant this is going to be. Certainly looks the best deck in the West as well. But really cool to see that it's still doing well in OP11. And looks like the green-purple Luffy is going to be taking on Belo Betty. So from my experience, the Belo Betty is a pretty tricky matchup for the green-purple Luffy. The green-purple doesn't play that much control. The only piece they really have is that green Zoro that can rest a 4. That can help you take out some of their board. But other than that, there's not a lot of control going on. And if Belo Betty is simply left unchecked, it's one of the most explosive decks in the game. Both of these decks are, to be fair, incredibly explosive. And I imagine this is going to be a crazy fast game with some really tricky decisions and just massive swings going at each other's faces. Looks like the green-purple Luffy has gone first. I imagine both of these players wanted to go second. Belo Betty really like second so they can play out that Ivankov, that 4-cost Ivankov on 4 Don and get to spamming the board straight away. Green-purple Luffy generally prefers second so they have a little bit more card draw and more time to regenerate those Dons, but less worried about the turn order than the Betty, I would say. And looks like the players are ready to set up. We're going to see what they've got in their hands real soon, and then we'll get this match underway. Who do you think's going to win? Leave a comment down below and leave an edit after the match to see if you got it right. My money, personally, I've got to have my money on the Betty, right? I think this matchup's pretty good for them. Oh, we see a Manga Luffy in this guy's hand. That's pretty cool, but this hand is not. The Electrical Luna is a card that can be very powerful into the Betty. All of their characters are very low cost, so that freezing the whole board, pretty crazy. Other than that, though, this hand is not that great. We see the boat, which will be nice to cycle out. Try and dig us towards some of those impactful cards, like the Zorojuro, the Green Zoro, and the Sanjian Pudding. That 6-cost Luffy, Manga Edition, very rich player on the left here, is going to be important for closing out this game, but not really a card you want to see in your opening hand. It's not something you're playing out super aggressively in many matchups. And here's the Betty's hand. We don't see the Ivankov, we do see some good 4-costs. Both the Karasu and the Lindbergh can be pretty impactful. We do have that Koala with the -3k, which can combo with your Lindbergh to remove some pieces. And we've also got a couple of Kumas. One, the 2k that has a trigger play, and the one that on play KOs a 2k unit. Probably not too impactful in this matchup, although if the green-purple Luffy player does play cards like the 3-cost Nico Robin, or the 2-cost Chopper, that Kuma and the Lindbergh could get some pretty crazy value. We're going to be underway here soon. Green-purple Luffy player going first. And let's get this match underway. I'm really excited. Again, let me know. Who do you think is going to win? Leave it in the comments below. Got a pretty exciting aggro mirror here. Let's go. And indeed it is the green-purple Luffy player getting us underway. One Don just going to play out the boat. We'll see what he draws here. Looks like it is a Frankie. So the Frankie is very good for regenerating your Don. Not the craziest character in the world, but certainly something he can do on 3. We do see 2 Don, that Kuma coming down, and the Betty did draw another Kuma for turn. So just getting that body on the board already means he can get an extra 5k somewhere to apply even more pressure to the Luffy player. Luffy player did draw a 4-cost Zorojiro for turn. Going to swing 5 into the Betty. Betty's always going to take that first swing. And then we do see the Frankie come down. No Don regeneration just yet. But once we start doing that leader effect for Don -2, that Frankie's going to be invaluable. We do see the Betty get the 4-cost Ivankov off the top, as well as the 5-cost Ivankov off the life. That 4-cost Ivankov, you've got to imagine is coming down. Use that leader effect, buff up those dudes. You can swing 5 with the Kuma. You can play out something else with the Ivankov. Maybe we'll even see that Karasu hit the field to debuff the Luffy leader to 4, giving him 2 5k swings into a 4k leader, looking for 2ks, and we can see that this Luffy player does not have any 2ks. So if he decides to trash one, buff up these dudes, play out that Karasu, it's going to be an incredible start for this Betty player. We are going to see 5k at lead just with the Betty leader. And the green-purple Luffy player is going to take that first swing. Actually has 0k counter in their hand. Gets another Zorojiro. So that's 6 bricks now. Holy, that's not a great hand. Not even got a Sanji and Pudding, right? To start regenerating the Don loop. And we do see the pitch on the 5-cost Ivankov buffing up those 2 dudes. Ivankov, indeed, is going to play the Lindbergh, actually. Interesting. Not opting for the Karasu. And then we will probably see the Kuma, yep, swinging 5 into that Luffy leader. And the Luffy player having 0 counter. I'm sure he's not thrilled about taking this again, but here we are. And draws another brick. Holy, I know this deck is infamous for playing 1 billion bricks, but this is ridiculous. And we get another, is that another one? It's a boat. Wow, this Luffy player is not having the best start in this game, man. That's crazy. I imagine we will see a Zorojiro come down, try and dig towards some counter. But you also want to see a Sanji and Pudding, right, is the thing. It's really tough. That's a really tough set of starts, man, for that Luffy player. We do have a Giant in hand. But Gianting on like 5 Don is... It's not what you want to do. You don't need me to tell you that. We do see the Zorojiro hit the field. If he plays the 2-cost Chopper blocker, you'd think that might be alright, but the Betty player does have the Lindbergh, so already can be able to take that out. We do see the 6-cost Sanji, though. Unlikely to be coming down this turn, but it is a 2k, and it's also a blocker that he can cheat out on a future turn for just 3 Don, which is pretty good. Looks like he was asking how many cards are in the hand. It's not many, just 4. We've got 1 Don. We could be swinging with the Frankie into the Kuma, trying to get that off the board. You'd imagine you want to alleviate that little bit of pressure. But there's only... But the Frankie is not going to regenerate any Don at base. So we're going to use the leader effect first. Restand 2. Buff to 6. Then the Frankie can get that Don online. Looks like we're eyeing up the boat to cycle that out. We're going to do 6 at life by the looks of it. We do see the Betty player looking to counter that one out, potentially with that Kuma. Interesting that the green-purple Luffy player is going just incredibly aggressive. But I suppose if they ramp with this Frankie, they could, in theory, play out the 6-cost Luffy and win next turn. Unlikely, but it could happen. Looks like the Betty player does get a trigger, gets that Kuma trigger. Trigger play one at this point in the game. Another massive body. That's not going to be what Green Purple Luffy player like to see come out of life there. But that's just the thing, right, with Betty. If you attack into them, you potentially just give them advantage. And this deck can just kill you so fast. It's crazy. We do see the cycle out on the boat, drawing the Ashura Demon 9 Flash. That's going to let him rest a blocker, or even a character, on this turn or a future turn. You'd also have to rest one of your own characters, which is a little tough. Looks like we're going to see the Frankie maybe attack into this Kuma. We do indeed see that, and we're going to ramp 1 Don back as rested, because we are behind. And the Kuma is going to go down. No point saving that from a 4-on-2. And then we see the pass with 2 Don open. Gum Gum Giant on 4 Don, man. That would be a time to be alive. You do have to remember, of course, that that Luffy leader is at 6k. But with Karasu in hand, I'm not sure it's going to be at 6k for very long. That Ivankov, once buffed up, can play out that Karasu for free, debuff that leader back to 5, and then we could see some pretty insane swings. Draws the Rev Army HQ off the top. Not very impactful at this point in the game, I would imagine. You generally want to see that card very, very early on. But it is nice that it's a Rev Army card, so you can use it to buff up your 3 dudes for 3k with the leader effect. And you've ditched a brick from your hand. We do see the Koala. If he did choose to play out that Koala, the Lindberghs, when attacking, could destroy the Zorojiro, which is pretty cool. Clearing the whole board of the green-purple Luffy player would be kind of nutty value. The fact that we didn't see that Sanji pudding come down is pretty good. And looks like we are potentially going to be looking towards that Lindbergh-Koala combo play, which will just give this Betty so much board advantage, because they're going to have a big board, and the Luffy player is just not really going to be able to clear it. We do see the pitch on the Rev Army HQ, buffing up those 3 dudes, all of them now at 8k power, which is crazy. And we do see the Ivankov's activate main, as we suspected, playing out that Karasu, debuffing the leader to 5, negating that entire leader effect, really. And this is going to be some pretty nuts aggression. I wonder if he will go with the Koala. Because you don't need to remove the Zorojiro. But it is pretty good, right? It's pretty good. The one thing you do have to note is if you do that, your counter situation gets quite low. You don't have that much. He has a 3k more in hand if he chooses to pitch this Koala to combo with the Lindbergh. But he is going to do it. -3 on that Zorojiro. The Lindbergh's going to destroy it immediately, which is pretty nuts. We're going to go 8 into 5, destroying the Zorojiro in the process. And then the green purple Luffy player is going to take that life. And what did he get? He got a Frankie, just a 1k. Nothing crazy. Looks like we're eyeing up another 8 into 5 with the Bartholomew Kuma. And we've currently on board got another 8 and we've got another 8 and a 9. So this Luffy player is in trouble. He is in trouble. Might have to use that Gum Gum Giant on 4 Don. That is not what you want, man. You don't need me to tell you that. We are thinking about it, though. And it looks like we might be just doing it. We're going to pull the trigger on the Gum Gum Giant. Going back to 2. This game's got to be over, right? Ditching that Luffy Taro. Draw 2 Don. Or 2 cards. Get out of the 8k swing. But at what cost? We do get a 0 cost. Now, that is a nice one. That 0 cost is going to make it a little less punishing for him to get out of one more of these swings. And we do see the 8k from the Ivankov coming in. 8 onto 5. And we'll see if he counts out of this one. He can for just the 0 cost and a 1k, which is pretty decent. Likely to see the pitch on one of those secret Luffys. We definitely don't need 2, especially when we're on 2 Don. We do see the 0 cost and the Luffy. And then 1 more K in the Frankie by the looks of it. Yep, very, very nice. And then we're going to see 9. 9 at lead with the Belo Betty leader. And realistically, we're going down to 0 here. Do we even have the counter? We have 2, 3. We have 3k counter here. I mean, we have the Electrical Luna. That's going to be able to freeze all 3 of those characters. But because we have that Karasu and the Koala character, as well as the Belo Betty leader, it's a really tough situation for the green-purple Luffy player here. The only sort of saving grace is the Frankie is going to Rampadon as rested, so perhaps we can play out the Electrical Luna and use the Tony Chopper to act as a blocker to at least try and have a chance, but it's still not looking good. We do see a Giant off the top. Can we get there? We can do 3, ram with Frankie, -2, restand 2. Yeah, we can do Chopper and still hold 1 for the Gum Gum Giant. Don't think we have any other counter events in our hand. We have the Demon Ashura. And we have the Electrical Luna. That was the only other 2 events. So that might end up being the line he takes. Swing with the Frankie, swing with the leader. Hopefully get him down to 1. Freeze all of his dudes. Play out the Chopper. Gum Gum Giant and pray. And then hope that you can get there next turn. But it's not looking good, is it? Your smart money's got to be on the Belo Betty player at this point. It's been a crazy explosive game. Belo Betty on their 6th Don turn, being able to swing 8, 8, 8, 9 is just disgusting. That trigger on the Kuma made a big deal of difference. Very, very big. Green Purple Luffy player, really tough spot. Eyeing up his choices. Frankie regenerating a Don is nice at least, but yeah, really other than that, it's looking pretty dunzo. We'll see. He's thinking hard. But this is realistically potentially his last turn, so you can't blame him for that. There's the hand. So many bricks. This deck's so powerful, but also plays 1 million bricks, right? It's crazy. Seeing Betty finally as like a top meta deck is really exciting as well. Since OP05, this deck has always been decent. It's never been on top, but it's always been just beneath. This is a pretty decent deck, but it's had some tough metas. Decks like Lucci and even Sakazuki back in the day really sort of just removed everything, gave you no chance to do very much. But now that the meta is a lot slower, with decks like Blue Purple Luffy, and also very aggressive with decks like Green Purple Luffy, Betty sort of fits that bit in between where you're massively aggressive, but also pretty good into the aggressive decks, which is pretty cool. We do see 5 with the Frankie, going to ramp 1 and going to get a 1k out of the Betty player. This does mean that he can't play the Chopper though, because he's chose to swing 5 with the Frankie. So no blocker's going to be online. You've got to play the Luna. It's always got to be the Luna, right? Otherwise, you're just dead. And looks like we are going to see the Luna. Yep, freeze everything. Well, 3 of them. So the Lindbergh, the Kuma, and the Ivankov will not refresh in the Betty player's next refresh phase. Going to use the lead effect. Go to 6. 2 Don open. Can't really afford to play the Chopper because you need to hold at least 1 for the Giant. Otherwise, you're just done. Will we see 6 or will we see 7? We're going to see 6 at life from the Luffy player. And at this point in the game, I don't think it really matters what the Betty player does. The Luffy player is just really in a pickle, but they do counter that one to stay at 2 life. Just in case. You never know where Giant's concerned. It's a pretty crazy card. Although it must be noted, even if he draws a second Giant, he can't play it because he has to do Don -2. And we only have 3 Don. So Betty player entering their 8 Don turn, going to buff up the Ivankov mostly for fun, as well as the Koala and the Karasu. Then we're going to see 1 Don 9 into 6, use the Karasus when attacking, debuff the leader to 5, making it 9 into 5. That's the magic number, 4k above requires Giant and a card. And we've still got 7 more Don for the Betty player. And that Koala is also at 6k. So we are going to see that Giant trashing the Luffy Taro, Don -2, drawing 2, buffing the leader up to 9. We need to see 1k more counter. Looks like we did draw a Nami and the When You're at Sea, so that's definitely not going to be enough. We're going to see 7 from the Koala character into 5. 2k, 1k. And then we see, is that 10? Yeah, that's 10, and that is not enough counter. So Betty, able to take down the Green Purple Luffy. I think this matchup seems pretty crazy for Betty, and he also got that really cool trigger on the Kuma super early on in this game. And that Luffy player not being able to counter any of the 2 initial 5k swings on the Betty's 4 Don turn because he had a handful of absolute bricks. Pretty unfortunate. Hope we get to see some more Betty action in the top 4. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the top 4 very soon.